Welcome to the Novalé podcast, where we explore the world of bathroom, kitchen, and laundry renovations. Today, we're going to talk about how we make renovations stress-free with Novalé. And joining me today is the head of project delivery of Novalé, Kristian Jones, who has over 20 years experience in the construction industry and happens to be an expert on this topic. But before we jump in, please like, share, and subscribe on whatever platform you're on. Leave a comment, give us a 5-star rating. It really helps us with the algorithm, helps us grow and reach more people. All right, let's start the episode. Welcome to the Novalé podcast. Kristian, how you feel?
Yeah, a little bit nervous. Not the sort of person that likes to put myself out there in this sort of a scenario. But yeah, I appreciate you asking me to come along and digging into the brain of mine just regarding Novalé, and yeah, excited to see what comes about.
Yeah, well, you have a very interesting background and role in Novalé, and I wanted to get you on for this episode because a lot of our customers, as you can tell from our Google reviews, they keep saying like it's such a stress-free process. The renovation was just so easy, so seamless, and who else to explain how that actually happens and the person that makes it happen. So
yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, let's dig into it.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Well, before we jump into the topic, I'd like to get people to know about you and about your background. So could you just give us a bit of a rundown of like how you got into this role and what was your bio?
Yeah, sure. Look, when I left school, I became an apprentice carpenter. I was working for a builder, did high-end architecturally designed homes, sort of in the lower North Shore of Sydney. I stayed there for about 5 years, moved into commercial cladding after that, so into a little bit of a different part of the industry. And from there, I became a fascia and facade fixer that then became a site manager, that then became a project manager for those guys. After a while, I did the whole thing of moved overseas for a few years, lived in England, I lived in Germany. I did a bit of industry work in both of those countries. So that was really nice, was a bit of a change. Came back then after that, and I worked for myself as a carpenter for many years. I've also done some formworking, and prior to Novalé, I was working for Lend-Lease Structures. I was there for a few years and worked on Tower 2 and Tower 3 of Barangaroo South. So wow. Again, yeah. So, you know, just sort of being through all those different tiers within the construction industry, I feel like has given me a really good rounded expertise in the building industry. So yeah. And now here I am at Novalé.
Yeah. So, wow. You got a very interesting, path that you've taken.
Yeah.
In terms of that, I guess we've got a lot of people who are aspiring to, get to where you are. Do you have any tips for them from how can they progress and get into a role like yours?
Yeah, look, I think the view of the industry, I feel like, has changed since when I first started. Shows like The Block and a lot of the DIY shows on TV now have kind of made the industry a bit cooler. And probably a little bit of a different view back in my day in the 90s when I started. But I guess advice I would give is, look, some kids want to be Instagram models, some people want to become doctors and lawyers. I don't suppose that there's a problem with all that, but to be honest with you, the future and to have a really good job these days, I feel like is going into being a trade and working in the building industry. So I would highly recommend that younger people get out there, do some apprenticeships at TAFE, seek these sort of roles because the country's going to need them. We're paying really good money for trades and for people in the industry. And if you don't want to become a doctor or an Instagram model, have a look into trades, and I feel like there's really going to be a massive future in Australia with that moving forward, and jump into it and get it going.
Yeah, just adding on to that, we're hearing so much about AI taking jobs away from the normal kind of industries, and I feel that maybe trades may not be as affected as other areas in the commercial world. So it's a good way to perhaps future-proof yourself against, technology and such. So, yeah,
definitely. And look, to be honest with you, like you said, in terms of AI, you can't at the moment take away from someone working with their hands. And something that's really interesting, and now I don't work on the tools anymore like I used to, but what I find is that when I had been working on the tools during the day, there was a real tangibility about the progress that you and the work that you did every day. That at the start of the day, you sort of started with nothing. At the end of the day, you'd built something, you'd created something. So there was a real satisfaction in doing that. So obviously, I don't know, you might get an accountant who is really excited about a spreadsheet. But yeah, in the industry, in construction, there's a real tangibility about what you've created day by day. And then obviously after a period of months, you look and you turn around and you've just done a new bathroom, kitchen, laundry, whatever it might be. And there's real satisfaction there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I feel that, do you get that satisfaction looking at, Barangaroo Towers and seeing that you worked on that?
Oh yeah, look, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Even little small things as well. Being a carpenter, you might create a chair, or you might create this, or you might create that, put a frame up. There's some real tangibility with satisfaction.
Yeah, there's really something special just creating something with your hands and yourself, really, and being able to use it as well and, admire it. So
yeah, definitely
agree. All right. That's a really great bio. I guess in terms of coming into Novalé, how did you get into Novalé and what did you find different?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I met so we used to have a site manager here at Novalé, George, and he looked after the Central Coast region. I actually had met him sort of 10 years ago at Barangaroo. I've also got a Cert 4 in work health and safety, and so myself and George were part of the safety team that used to do the safety walk once a week around Barangaroo. And he after he left Barangaroo, ended up joining Novalé. And when I left Barangaroo and I left Lend-Lease, I was just sort of looking for something new, something to get into. And I noticed that Novalé were looking for site managers. And one of the testimonials on video on the website here was George. And obviously I knew George from Barangaroo. And so I gave him a call. So I said, what's Novalé like? What are they like? He's like, yeah, come along, have a chat with Steve, the owner. And look, Steve and I courted each other for about 6 months. And then, I came on board initially as a site manager. And I've been very happy ever since.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
A lot of people, like to transition from getting off the tools and being a site manager, and you're still on the tools a bit as a site manager, but you're kind of more into the spreadsheets and the software side. Do you have any tips on people that want to get off the tools and transition into a site management role?
Yeah, look, it's obviously very, very different. I think at the end of the day, you've probably got to do what your strong points are. I feel like for myself, now in terms of my role, I'm project managing, I'm, looking after the site managers on site, and I feel I've got strong organizational skills, and strong management skills. And because I'm able to lean into that, I feel like I can do that role. I guess some people, their skills are going to be more working day in, day out with their hands. So I feel like probably advice would be trust what you can do and lean into what you're strong at doing. If that means that, you feel like you've got the ability to manage, you've got the ability to be very organized, then I would say, look at pursuing your career beyond where you're at and potentially moving into more site management and project management. So
awesome.
Yeah.
I know that you mentioned this kind of saying a lot in Novalé, that we have a Formula One car in the garage. And I think that's what inspired me to, go on site and really just film what you guys do day in, day out. Can you just let the listeners out there know what you mean by this?
Yeah. So look, I mentioned to Steve a little while ago, and I kind of said to Steve, when I first came, we were just sort of focusing on bathrooms at that point of time. The company had done kitchens previously, but we weren't sort of marketing that. We were just sort of doing kitchens for people that had been past clients and who had kind of begged us to do it. Obviously, now we've evolved more into doing kitchens, doing laundries, doing other areas of the home. And look back a little while ago, I said to Steve, and I wanted to encourage Steve because he had the dream to expand the business, to actually do it, because we had the Formula One car in the garage. Because then what I meant by that was that we've got all the right people here to be able to expand into other areas of the home. And, in the end, that's what we ended up doing, because we've got all the trades, we've got all the people in the office, we've got all the project management, we've got the systems, we've got the procedures, we've got everything in place. And for us, it was just about, to a certain degree, trying to get our ducks in a line, our ducks in a row, before marketing it to other people. But now that we've done that and we've got all our systems and procedures right, we're taking that Formula One car out for a spin.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, it's great for all the Formula One fans out there.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of customers don't realize, doing bathrooms and doing kitchens, there's a lot of overlap, and it's not like if you only do one, you can't do the other. There's you can do both.
Yes.
And is there really much technical difference in doing a bathroom and doing a kitchen? So,
look, I guess there's probably, with kitchens, there's more focus on joinery. So as long as you've got the know-how and the insight into the joinery aspect, then I feel like you definitely can operate in the kitchen space. However, the bathroom is the most complex and technical probably room in the house in regards to construction. You've got all of those trades in one small room. They've got to interact with each other. And you've also got the waterproofing element on top of that you've got to get right. So, if you don't get the waterproofing right, then unfortunately, a few years later, you're coming back to redo the bathroom. And we've actually found that, sort of sadly, that we've had some people who've initially come to us, potentially gone to other companies, and then come back 5 years later and said, I need you to fix my bathroom because it's leaking. So it's very, very important that you get proper people, specialized people, people who do this sort of work day in, day out, to be able to do the bathroom. Because if you don't get it right, and the bathroom does start leaking, then you're going to be in a world of pain. And I might be biased, but just reach out to us in the first place.
Yeah.
So
I couldn't have said it better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what I've realized as well, is that if you have a leaking problem or any problem with the foundations of your bathroom, it's not like it's a quick patch fix. It's most likely you're going to have to rip it up if you want to fix it properly. So
yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. Speaking of waterproofing, we just released a video on Instagram with Chris doing PVC waterproofing.
Yes.
And I didn't realize that there's the way we waterproof isn't the same as others. And not many people are aware of this kind of waterproofing. Can you just give us a rundown of what it is and how it differs from the norm?
Yeah, sure. Look, we use PVC waterproofing, and what that is a fabric that goes down onto the floor. Now, look, how that differs to potentially other styles of waterproofing, for example, paint-on waterproofing, is that when we put the PVC fabric down onto the floor, it's actually flexible. So if you do get any movement in the building, that can flex. If you've done paint-on waterproofing and you get movement in the building, the moment that the building moves, if you do get any cracking, obviously you're going to get a crack into your paint-on waterproofing. And then, all of a sudden your bathroom is not waterproof anymore. So that's one of the advantages of PVC waterproofing. And what it is, I guess if you can imagine it, I guess it's like a little kiddie pool, plastic one that you have in the backyard. So the PVC is laid down within the whole room, and then it curls up on the corners comes up about 200 mil onto the sides of the wall. So we're basically creating sort of a pool, so to speak. And then once the water gets in there, it's diverted down into the drainage points. So I guess another advantage of PVC is that with the paint on system, you've got to do several layers and coats of paint. With the PVC, we lay the PVC down generally in about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and then straight away you can walk on it, work with it immediately.
Yeah.
So you don't have to take several days to do layer upon layer of the paint on.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So look, we still do paint on the walls because that's obviously the system that's required there. With the PVC, however, if you do have a timber frame, we are also putting a clear PVC sheet behind the shower walls, and then we sheet over the top of that, and then we do paint on top of that. So yeah, there is literally no way that is going to leak. There's 3 layers of protection there.
Wow. Yeah. That's it's like almost like double waterproofing.
Yeah. So so look, we feel that PVC system is superior to other systems, and in terms of Novalé, we give it a 10-year warranty on that, which is going to be the longest that you're going to get.
That's awesome. All right, I guess we can start jumping into the actual topic of this podcast, which is, how we make our renovations stress-free for our customers. But before jumping into the actual process of what you do, a lot of people have, opinions about renovations and perceptions that it's stressful and things like that. Before jumping in, do you have any tips for customers that are, thinking, like any piece of advice for customers before starting a renovation?
Yeah, look, I feel that the best way to go about it is to be prepared. And I think preparation is the key to this. We get contacted by people and, they ring us and say, oh, can you start a bathroom renovation in 2 weeks for us? And, look, potentially you can. But if you don't do the right preparation up front, and especially if you get some unknowns that sort of happen during the process of a job, that can just completely throw your job into chaos. So, look, at Novalé, we have a very sort of systematic approach. We have a very detailed scope of works that we start with, and that's driven by sales at the very start. From there, we do a lengthy pre-construction process where, we have designers who, work out all the PCs and tile selections. Also myself, I might find myself on site doing some structural inspections or, some check measures for joinery, window measures, all these sorts of things to make sure that we get all of that stuff right and have it all ordered and ready for delivery to be on site by day one. And then beyond that too, we do things like we have Gantt charts where we're working on specific schedules. We book all our trades in prior to us coming to the job. And in that way, we're able to reduce the length of time for the build. So, yeah, look, the advice is be prepared, and that preparation is really going to make all the difference when it comes to, your renovation starting. Because by the time we get to actually starting the job, it almost becomes the easy part of it. All the decisions are made, whatever gray areas were and unknowns that were there, we're trying to iron them out before we get started. And yeah, beyond that, it's like Lego instructions.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I guess going into the preparation and what you just mentioned is that I think we can kind of break down the whole process into 4 stages. So stage 1's consultation. So actually when you start talking to the customer and deciding what they want to do with their bathroom, the planning, the concept, then it goes into stage 2, which is pre-construction, which is, the design, more of the planning and the concept kind of taking shape. And then it goes, once the design's, all done, the fixtures and fittings are all ordered and they're ready to be on site. That's when the construction stage 3 begins.
Yes.
And then after construction, then it's stage 4, which is completion, which is, the final stages and the handover. So Can you talk to us about when do you start kind of getting involved and what's involved from that point?
Yeah. So look, it's funny. I'm almost involved from the start in some cases. Sales can obviously sometimes have questions that they need operations to answer. And so, yeah, I might find out about a job even at the sales consult because we're being inquired in regards of, should we do this? Should we do that? How can we do this? How can we do that? And then, yeah, very much once the contract is signed, I'm then sometimes needed to go out onto site and do inspections. Like I said previously, there could be some structural inspections or might need to sort of get under the house and see what can be done here and what can be done there. And we try to sort of finalize as much of the scope as we can prior to getting on the job and starting construction. So yeah, that can only be done by myself or someone else in operations going and taking a look. And then, yeah, beyond that, I'm also, liaising with the designers. Sometimes they have construction questions that we need answered. And they then hand over to me. I will do the project management on the job. So all of the scheduling, prepare that. I prepare the final scope. And then once the job gets started, I manage the site managers and I become the chief problem solver. Whatever they can't solve, that gets passed to me. And so, yeah, we'll put it this way. I don't get calls through the day from the guys just seeing how I am. But generally, if I've got a call during the day, I'm sort of looking at my phone going, okay, let's see what this is about. But yeah, look, as I said before, because we've wrapped up so many things in pre-construction, we generally don't have that many issues during the build. One thing, obviously, that everyone's got to know is that there are always going to be unknowns because we can't see through walls until we sort of demolish a bathroom or whatever it might be, a kitchen, laundry. You really don't know what is going to be behind the walls. Sometimes you don't exactly know what's going to be under the floor or in the floor. So you are going to always sometimes have these unknowns, but I think it's always important in how we deal with those. And we generally deal with them really quickly and very swiftly. So yeah, I get those sort of calls from the guys, and then obviously once things are wrapped up, if there's any concerns post construction, sort of around any warranty or anything like that, then again we just swiftly allocate one of our guys to go and sort it out.
Yeah, good answer. Yeah, I think unknowns. With Steve and I like to call them unforeseens. I guess they're the same thing. Yeah. Just to give the listeners out there a good idea of what is an example of unforeseens. I know one is like termites.
Sure.
Say.
Yeah.
Are there any others that are kind of common unforeseens?
Yeah. Look, well, it's not uncommon to find that previously someone mightn't have waterproofed the shower space properly, and quite often once we take the sheets and the tiles and everything off the wall. Quite often we find that, sort of a timber frame's been water damaged. So yeah, a lot of that frame has got to be cut out and then redone. So that's, I guess, a classic example of an unforeseen. Another might be that, we have an older property and they've just tiled down onto an old fly ash slab, which is basically a slab that's kind of put together with sand and cement and sometimes old pieces of tiles and all sorts of different things. Some bitumen will actually fly ash. All of these sorts of things. Sometimes some of the slabs that we see are shocking, and we can't guarantee that in the future that slab won't sort of break up, won't crack. So in that scenario, obviously we weren't at sales able to see that. But now that the room's demolished, we can see that the slab is not fit for purpose. And so we'll actually go through and put a whole new slab in there for the client. So look, these are some sort of classic examples of unforeseens that unfortunately, until we actually get into the room that we demolish, that we can actually see what's there.
Yeah, and it's not such a scary thing. Like a lot of them are manageable, and there's a solution for it. And it's really
Yeah.
is it just about communicating this to the customer and like the next steps essentially?
Yeah, correct. And look, we have really tight schedules, but however, we don't book work for weekends. We generally give a day here or a day there, sometimes during tiling or at the back end of the job. So yeah, a lot of times when you have an unforeseen, we're actually able to deal with it really swiftly. It's just, I guess, the power that we've got with all the subcontractors that we have and the site managers. We've got the people and the ability to act really, really quickly on some of these things. So and also we got the experience of doing it so long as well that yeah, I guess one person's problem is a major headache, and for us it's just another process.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of we've discovered this, okay, let's bring this person in, we'll do it swiftly, and then we'll get the job back on track.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
So
That's the strength of Novalé and just having good preparation and a good team.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
I think you touched on a very interesting point of how, we have we basically have our team go in, day after day, and it creates a quick kind of tempo. I guess what you can kind of tell people out there, like what's a, good expectation of how long a bathroom renovation would take.
Yep. Look, talking about a bathroom renovation. If we're talking about an average bathroom, which is probably say 5 square meter floor, 20 square meters on the walls, that's sort of a bathroom with a standard spec in there. It's probably about 3 weeks from demolition to say making it operational. Again, it depends on whether you're painting in there or what you might be doing, but there's different variables that may affect the timeline. But I'd say that probably 3 weeks is the average. What that doesn't encapsulate, however, is getting the shower screen back. So we tailor make all our shower screens to fit the room. So after tiling, we'll have the glazier come in. He will then measure up the shower screen. Obviously, the falls of the floor are all sort of different. So that's why he's got to make it tailor-made. And it takes 10 working days to get that back. So generally, after he measures up, we'll do all our fit outs, which might take sort of maybe 5 days. And then beyond that 3 weeks, maybe you're waiting another 3 or 4 days to get your screen back. So, yeah. But look, we've got the ability to sort of install a temporary shower curtain so that the client can get in there and start using the bathroom. And so that's why I sort of say that's at that point, 3 weeks we're making it operational. So we actually want the clients to get in there. We want the clients to start using it because get them to use the toilet, have them use the shower, get them to use everything so that we know before we hand over that everything's working correctly. And yeah, so they get to take the car for a spin. And if there's any little concerns, we can sort of knock them on the head prior to us officially handing over to the client.
Yeah, I like that. I like that you get to test it out.
Yeah.
For a week, did you say?
Yeah. Look. We generally, once we've practically completed the room and given the client the authorization to access that room, we generally wait a week after that before we officially hand over, just to make sure that the shower screen's gone in, that the client's used every element of the room, and then from that point, they don't see any concerns. We shake hands and we've got a very happy client.
Yeah. Awesome. I guess I got another question regarding that. If they're having like multiple bathrooms in a house, does it just add on more time, or is there any kind of synergies doing multiple renovations in one go?
Yeah, look, obviously if we've got an extra room that we're working on or several rooms, the schedule will sort of go out a little bit further. It is obviously much quicker to be able to do all rooms at the same time versus having one start and then a second start. Look, obviously not everyone's in the position to be able to do that. But yeah, look, let's say, for example, I mentioned before, you've got that 5 square meter sort of floor, 20 square meter walls. if we've got two of those and we're doing them at the same time, well, we can generally have that operational sort of under 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. Now, however, if we're going to do those 2 rooms in 2 separate starts, then we're probably going to be doing 3 weeks for the first start and 3 weeks for the second start, with that little extra sort of half week to get your shower screen back after that.
Yeah.
So you can see that sort of 6-ish sort of weeks versus probably 4 if we're doing them together.
Yeah.
So yeah, so there's a little bit of a difference there. But either way, you know, everyone's situation is different. Some people can't move out of the home, and so they do need a working shower, toilet, bathroom. So, yep, sometimes we are doing 2 starts. Sometimes we get to do them all at once.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess with kitchens, can you give us is it the same kind of time expectation, or are there kind of a few key differences for kitchens?
Yeah, a little bit difference with the kitchen. Kitchen is a little bit simpler than a bathroom. With the kitchen, it generally takes us sort of 1 week to do the rough in, and then we're either sort of putting floor layering down. So if we're tiling, we'll probably tile first, and then we'll get in there and put the joinery in. Now, it depends what bench top is being used. So if we're using stone, then we need to get the joinery in so we can measure up for the stone. And then again, with the stone, there's a lead time, there's a turnaround time on having that fabricated and getting that back to site. So look, generally that lead time is, again, it's probably about 10 working days or so, depending on how complex the job is. So with the kitchen, we get the kitchen to a certain point, have all the joinery in place. Once we get those bench tops back, then we can bring all our trades back in and do fit off. So which might then take an extra week at the end of that. So again, you know, it's probably a week and a half up front. You're waiting a week and a half to get your stone back, and then it's a week to finish. So there's less working days in a kitchen, but overall the schedule will probably be a little bit longer due to waiting for your bench top to come back.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've talked about this project management app, and you've seen in a lot of reviews that we have this app. And I think what we haven't talked about is just how it's actually used by, you and the site managers, and how you guys communicate with the customer through the app. Can you give us just a little bit of a, description of like how you guys use the app and how that kind of creates a relationship with the customer?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, we've got an app, Buildertrend, that we use. What the app allows is we kind of use that for all of our communication. So where possible, we're messaging, emailing through that app. In regards to site, the site guys use it. They will write a daily log every single day. And what that daily log is basically a rundown of the events that's happened on the job that day, and also what's going to be happening the next day. The guys will also use that platform to upload all their photos. So we take photos every day of the job, so you can see the progress. This allows a client to either be living there or not living there, and they can still be part of all the process and see it happening right before their eyes in the app. The app also contains the schedule and contains important documents. So for example, the scope, any drawings, any order forms. We use the app also to do invoicing through there, so that you can plainly see and have the sort of the transparency of seeing all that invoicing. We also use the app in design and pre-construction as well. So just to help talk to the client during the process there. Again, using daily logs to say this is where we're at and this is what we're up to. The app itself will also have to-dos in it. So the client can get to-dos. It's like a little bit of a checklist to say, hey, we need to get that order form back off you, or we need you to get your strata application in, et cetera, et cetera. There's a massive amount of benefits of using the app. And I feel like it really makes client experience go to another level. Because they can really get involved in the job by having access to this app.
What's really surprised me is that it's so easy to pick up. You know, like everyone thinks of an app. It's like, oh, I gotta learn a new thing, and it's quite surprising how quickly anyone really picks it up. Whether it's just it could be just not just young people, but parents, grandparents are using it and they love it. So the learning curve, I feel, you can let me know if it's different, but it's quite pretty. It's not as steep as people think. It's like once you pick it up, it's quite intuitive.
Yeah.
And, we're here to teach them how to use it, and they love it. They can't stop using it afterwards. So
yeah, we do get a lot of really good feedback on the app. And look, effectively, if you could use something like Facebook, then you can use the app.
Yeah.
It's really as simple as that. The app has got a crazy amount of functions to it. But look, basically for any homeowner, even just to be able to get the daily logs every day, to access the pictures, and to be able to make comments or messages within the app is really, really basic. But I find now that it's vital. I can't even imagine not having or not using Buildertrend anymore, to be honest with you.
I'm just thinking of the alternative. Like if we didn't have this app, it would be 1,000 emails.
Yeah.
You'd have conversations that the site managers would have with the customer that wouldn't be, written down anywhere or recorded. Right. And, the daily logs, the customer wouldn't really know. It would have to be a phone call. It'd be like, hey, we've done this and then we're going to do this tomorrow. But with the app, it's all there.
Correct.
It's almost like a one source of truth.
Yeah. Yeah, correct. And look, obviously everyone's busy every day. Our society and our life is very, very busy. Having conversations over the phone can be time consuming day in, day out. And, especially for our site managers too, who will be running more than one job at once. So it's just easy for them and it's easy for the client to access the information through a little bit of an informal way of just having it delivered as within the app, which sends you an automatic email that you can, read the daily log via an email, or you can go into the actual app itself and see the log there. Yeah. So yeah, it makes everyone's life easier.
Yeah.
So.
I love that. I love this app. Yeah. I think what other feedback I get from customers, I just came up from a shoot and this customer also said this as well, as it's just how, the protection that we do on site is like a lot different from other people.
Sure.
And we get a lot of praise from it. Can you just give us an explanation of how we do protection and why it's different from others?
Yeah. So look, what we try to do where it's possible is we'll sort of provide protection in all the trafficable areas that we work in. So, if it's possible, we'll put exterior protection outside leading up to the front door, then from the front door to the workspace. So whether it's a bathroom or a kitchen or laundry, whatever it might be. In the areas just outside of the workspace, we'll put down some core flute. That's just an added protection on top of our standard floor protection, just in some of the more heavy trafficable areas. Beyond that, we'll put some protection on the walls, covered door jambs, handrails. In some areas where we can, we'll put dust walls up where we can close off parts of the home, and you can still access them via a zipper, getting in and out. Sometimes that's good too with pets, just sort of keeping them in one area of the home. So yeah, we do go the extra mile with the protection. Look, one of the reasons why I joined Novalé was, I feel like we're an industry leader, but we always go the extra mile. Yeah. So and for me, it was always going the extra mile and working for a company that looked at things in that way. So I feel like the protection is just an example of us going the extra mile. And, the client experience is always at the forefront of what we do. And, our systems and processes have almost been built around putting ourselves in the client's shoes and, doing what you would want to have happened in your own home. And so, yeah, again, we want to be able to protect your home, protect your assets. So, we go the extra mile in putting this extra protection down and, looking after things as if it was our own.
Yeah.
So
I think we get so much praise it's funny that you said that. We get so much praise from the customers that of how friendly everyone is, and I know that as someone that before coming into Novalé, I was also kind of wary of trades, and there's a stigma with trades coming into your home and you don't know what you're expecting. I feel that you and Brian and the team really have reversed that stigma, and that everyone's so friendly. Can you talk about what measures you put in place to kind of ensure that people are kind of at ease and they know what to expect with Novalé? If someone from Novalé's coming into the home, they know it's going to be professional. That we're going to clean up, we're going to do all these things, and what's the secret behind it?
Yeah, look, I guess when it comes to trades, we're quite selective with who we use. The renovation can be quite an emotional experience for clients. It is their home, it is their major asset. So we're well aware of that. And we're also in their personal space. And, that's it's a reason why we try to have as shorter schedules as we can, because we're in your own personal space, and we want to get in and we want to get out and give you, a beautiful new space, but do it in a really respectful way. So, we have both people who work within Novalé that are direct employees. We also have subcontractors that work for us. And yeah, look, as I said, we're very picky with who we choose, because those people have got to be in your home and they've got to be respectful of your home and of you. And so from a Novalé perspective, we're kind of fishing in a pool of, we're looking for people who are really, really good at what they do, really, really good tradesmen. So we're looking for that top 5%. But regardless of how good that tradesman can be, that tradesman also needs to be a nice person, respect the client, do the right thing, have the right values that we want working for us. And so we're then looking at the 1% of the top 5%. So, we're really swimming in a very small pool here, but we're well aware that we need the right person on the job to be in your home and to be respectful of it. So, yeah, if we've got a tradesman who's really good at what they do, working with their hands, but don't have the best attitude, then they just can't work for us. So I feel like the secret is having the right people work for you. And they've got to have that all-round balance of being really good at what they do, but also being a nice person, having the right values and having the respect.
Yeah, so, good answer.
Yeah.
You were actually voted last year. You got the Leadership Award of 2024 at the Novalé Drippys.
Yes.
I have to explain what the Drippys are to people. So it's an awards, internal awards night that we have, gala. So you can think of the Oscars, think of the Logies, and then there's the Drippys for Novalé, and it's when you bring our network in, all the trades, all the people in the office, anyone involved with Novalé. And we really just celebrate the efforts of everyone, and we have these awards. And we had one award called the Leadership Award, where everyone gets to choose, who demonstrated the best qualities of a leader for this year. And your name popped up a lot, and you got the award. And you just mentioned that you have to manage the top 1% of the top 5%. Yeah, do you have any kind of explanation of how you do that, or do you have a secret?
Not really. Look, firstly, I'm very honored to have received that award. So it's really nice that my peers see me in that way. So I'm very thankful, very humble to have received that. Look, I guess this probably rolls on from the ethos of the company, where where we put ourselves in the client's shoes and want the client to have an amazing experience and not just the result. I guess I feel that way about the people around me and who I work with, that I want to put myself in their shoes as well, and I'll obviously treat them the way that I would want to be treated myself. And so I feel like I do the right thing by people, and I take a lot of ownership, and and I guess I'm always out there to help my fellow Novalians, which is a bit of a term that we use around here.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know if there's any sort of great secret to it, but we've got some really strong values at Novalé, and again, another reason sort of why I'm working here. And I think I work with a set of values, and and I do that because I would like other people to treat me in a certain way. So yeah, if that translates into being a good leader, then I think I'm doing okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, the feedback that I got, and also with the votes, definitely reflected what you just said. So you're speaking the truth. It's like a true leader. All right. So we're close to wrapping up now, but
Sure.
before we would like to end it on a fun note. I think do you have any funny stories happening on projects or anything you found amusing?
I guess, well, when I was sort of still on jobs and still working on the tools, I do remember a time where I had I'd split my pants early in the day, and unfortunately I had a lot of work to do, and it wasn't like I could sort of go out, go shopping, or do anything like that. So I basically had to duct tape myself up, and if you can imagine, I've wrapped duct tape around from underneath my sort of backside and around one leg, and then wrapped up the other side. And so I just had to get on with things. And so, yeah, that was a bit of a funny moment that people saw me walking around with myself all duct taped up. So, but look, the show must go on, and we worked to strict schedules, so we had to get the schedule done. So yeah. That was a moment that does come to light.
Qualities of a great leader: just get it done, whether you got to duct tape it through or Yeah. Okay.
Fight on the beaches.
Fight on the beaches.
Yes,
That's it. Yeah. Actually, listened to Churchill recently.
Yeah.
Last one, very last question. I want to ask a lot of the guests this. If you were doing your own, bathroom, kitchen, laundry, you can choose either one of the three.
Sure.
What would you splurge on, and what would you save on?
I would probably, let's say if we're talking about, say, for example, a bathroom, I'd maybe look at items like, say, a heated towel rail, especially in those winter months where there's nothing worse where you're sort of coming out of the shower and your towel's still wet from the shower that you did the day before. So a heated towel rail is definitely something I would look at. I do like an LED light under a vanity. So, if you do have to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, that comes on automatically. And it also provides you with a light that's not too in your face. It's more of a softer light. So having that just sort of operate automatically and you're sort of half asleep, that's fantastic. And I think I'm a bit more, I guess, sort of modern than a traditionalist. So yeah, I think I'd be leaning towards, I guess, some modern features in the room. So whether that's more sort of like a frameless shower screen versus a shower screen with a frame, those sorts of things. So yeah, that's what I guess I would splurge on. What was the other half to the question?
And what would you save on?
What would I save on? Tough one, this one.
You can just say none if you don't want to. You could just say, hey, look, it's investing.
I don't know what I would save on. Look, to be honest with you, what I'd probably save on is I'd probably get in there and do a little bit of the work.
That's a good answer.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
so I'd probably I don't get on the the tools that much these days. It's not sort of required, but I feel like I stay reasonably fit, so I'd probably be jumping in there, helping with the demolition and potentially, if it's a timber frame, doing some of the carpentry work and things like that. So that's probably where I'm saving a little bit of money.
Yeah, just keep those tools sharp,
Yeah, exactly right.
Great answer, Kristian. Before we head off, do you have any final words to say, or?
Look, I think there was a theme here, I guess. You mentioned at the start, sort of maybe helping people with stress-free renovations. I feel like all of that really starts from day one. When we get in there and we do a very thorough sale and provide a thorough scope of works, and we do all the upfront work at pre-construction where we're sorting out all the PCs, sorting out all the tiles, trying to sort out any grey areas that the job might have prior to us doing construction. All of that lead up work and preparation, having all the deliveries, make sure that they're going to be on day one, all these little things add up. And yeah, if you're looking at doing a renovation, choose a company who's doing that. Not a company that's, writing their quote on a napkin and handing it to you, but who's going the extra mile to do all those additional things and to prep your job prior to them coming to site. Another great thing we do is a pre-work site meeting a week before the job starts and have our site manager go out and meet the client and then go through the scope and just have a look and see if there is any grey areas left. And just all of these little tiny things that we do will then just ease into having a stress-free renovation. So it's all the upfront things and all the expertise that we've got that we use at the start that will then help streamline the building process. Like I said before, the building process generally can be the easy part. It's all the decisions and everything that needs to be made prior to us starting, where that all needs to get sorted first. If all that stuff's not sorted, then I feel like you're not going to have a stress-free renovation. So that would be my tip. Preparation at the start, use someone who's got the expertise and make sure that we're, got all the preparation done. So,
very well said. I think that's a good time to wrap it up. Thank you for hopping on, Kristian. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It wasn't as daunting as I expected. So, yeah.
Yeah, Steve and Reno like to psych everyone out before, just get their nerves high. So, but honestly, thank you very much.
I'm going to say hi to all the 5 people out there who was going to be listening.
Oh, it's more like 3. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're being a bit too optimistic out there.
Well, anyway, hopefully this helps some people out there.
Yeah. Thanks, Kristian.
No worries. Thanks, Ben.
No worries.
Ciao.